Hi, I'm Isaac. I'm a writer, director, editor, colorist, sound designer, musician, many other things because this industry is insane and you need to do a little bit of everything in order to stand out at all. Oh good, another guy on the internet who thinks he's a fucking expert. Absolutely not. You know who are experts? John August and Craig Mazin. They have a podcast called Script Notes. It is probably one of the best resources out there for an up-and-coming writer. If you haven't listened to their podcast, please close this video, go listen to every single episode that they've made, and then come back when you're done. I'll be here. I really got to get better at advertising myself. So, why 6 weeks? Is that something that you're actually going to expect in a career like this? Kinda. A little bit, sometimes. You do come across people who will have these tight deadline expectations for you, but professionalism aside, it's not even that it's something that you should be prepared to do because somebody might ask you one day. It's more to just prove to yourself that you can fucking do it, not necessarily to make your best script ever. In fact, on the contrary, there's probably going to be some pretty sloppy writing in there. This exercise is more to help you realize that writing a feature script doesn't have to be this like behemoth of a task that you spend all of your time and brain power wrestling into something that you can maybe send off to the blacklist in hopes that you will be one of those astronomically unlikely people to make it. Just like a 48-hour film festival forces you to realize that a short film doesn't necessarily require an entire Kickstarter campaign and a year of pre-production, this is designed to simply dispel the myth that you can't do this. Because you can. I fucking believe in you. Let's get started. It's kind of a joke, but kind of not really. It's like that bit about how the easiest way to earn $2 million is to start with $1 million. This kind of work really does take a lot of practice and a lot of discipline, and you really need to know who you are as a writer in order to bang out a script and let that happen naturally. The actual writing of this is going to be so much easier if you are just like stupidly excited for what it is that you're writing. When I first came up with this idea of giving myself an artificially tight deadline in order to finish a script, I thought, okay, I'm just going to go through my little Google Doc of ideas. I'm going to pick the first one that is just like the most exciting thing that I can possibly think of. And it was a Western werewolf movie called High Moon. That's all that I knew about it at the time, but that excited me enough. And I wasn't trying to like place in a contest or like win the nickel or anything like that. I just wanted to do something that was going to be exciting for me and exciting to pitch. And it worked. It was a totally bonkers idea that at least kept my attention while I was writing it, and then managed to bring in a lot of attention from people who otherwise wouldn't have been reading my work. When I'm working on a new project, I tell everybody. And I'm not just doing that because I'm excited about it, but because the concept that in like a couple of months, one of them might be like, hey, how's that project going? And I don't have anything to show for it is utterly terrifying to me. But talking with other people about your project is not just for accountability, it also just gives you a chance to bounce ideas around and you can kind of keep it alive in your own head. Writing is already a pretty lonely profession, and just having an excuse to bring other people into it can give you a chance to step out of the limits of your own mind. We all know that feeling when we stumble upon an idea that's gotten us excited and we think, oh wow, now I'm going to watch every single Western known to man so I can really nail that vibe. Stop. This is a trap. It is always a trap. It's already a very well-known joke that writers will come up with 1,000 things to do instead of writing. Do the dishes. Do a puzzle. Clean the toilet. Do the dishes. Again. Train the dog. Stand. Do the dishes. Again, because this never ends. Have a complete psychological breakdown. Train your dog to do the dishes. Comfort your pregnant wife.
Stop touching me.
And research is definitely one of them. If you really want to watch stuff for inspiration, pick 3 things. It's a totally arbitrary number, but it's a limit, and limits are how we thrive. Speaking of which. So how do you divvy up this process? For me, I would give myself 2 weeks to outline and then 4 to do the actual writing. You want to be careful because you don't want to put yourself in a position of needing to spend multiple hours every single day writing. If you're ready to start writing and you've got a whole month to knock out a 90-page script, that's a little over 3 pages a day. And you're totally going to have on days and off days where you write a little bit more or a little bit less. Don't get too hung up on this. As long as you're sitting down and doing something once a day, you'll be okay. Unless, of course, you get stuck, which you will. We all do. Maybe a line's not quite working right, or maybe the setup of a scene just isn't really feeling bleh. Or maybe there's a medical instrument that your surgeon character is supposed to be using and you want to make sure that you've got the right name for that thing and it's just on the tip of your tongue, and maybe you've got to figure, stop. It's really important to remember that you're not writing your final draft in 6 weeks, you're writing your first. You are allowed to make broad strokes or skip scenes entirely if it means that you just get to move on and then come back to fill those gaps when you're done. The same can be said for revisions. If you're constantly going back to page 1 to pick apart every little thing and find the exact right way to say the exact right thing, chances are you're going to be bashing your head against the wall so much that you end up losing interest in your script altogether. Whenever I'm gone for a day and I pick things back up, I'll maybe read the previous page just to kind of be like, okay, what was my vibe? What was my momentum? But I rarely, if ever, go back to page 1 before I've completed the first draft. Obviously, this is different for everybody. It's just the way that it works for me. Actually, all my friends on the internet and my screenwriting professor all say that formulaic writing is bad and nobody likes it, and there's no examples of it on film or TV from writers who have been paid to make it. Wait a minute. Listen, I get it. Nobody likes to be put in a box, and we all like to think of ourselves as these truly unique auteurs who are going to completely change the game and cannot be bothered to study something as brainless and dumb as structure. But the truth is, structure works. And in the case of an exercise where you're trying to write a script in 6 weeks, it can be a really, really useful guardrail. When you are rich and famous and everyone's just clamoring for what you're going to do next, by all means, toss structure out the window, go completely insane, make Megalopolis. There are a million gurus out there and a million books who all say that they know exactly how to do this and they'll teach you for the low cost of whatever, and all of that stuff is The only one that I've ever taken anything from is Eric Edson's The Story Solution. Not necessarily for his dissection of scripts and exactly which beats land where, which you can take with a really big grain of salt, but because it taught me to think 3 to 5 pages at a time and that actions have consequences. Just like Trey Parker and Matt Stone's advice on writing, generally these scenes or sequences should end with a but or a so, meaning that everything is related. You're not just kind of adding scenes on top of stuff to make things happen. Things are related because actions have consequences. If you're not quite sure how to start this process, I'm including a link in the description to a spreadsheet that I've created that I use for pretty much every outline that I've ever done. It changes based on the movie, but it does give me a really wonderful bird's eye view to help me understand how my story is progressing from beginning to end. And that's it. Now, is it really as simple as all that? No. There are so many things out of our control and demand and deserve our attention in our real lives. Like we're playing fantasy. But if you find that, I don't know, you have the time and you have the curiosity and the drive, I highly encourage you rip off that bandage. Once you realize that you can do this, I promise your next project is going to feel infinitely more attainable. And don't be so caught up on the 6-week thing. If it took you 7 weeks or 8 or 9, but you finished, look at you. If you found anything helpful here, if you felt inspired, if you've managed to write your script in record time, then please feel free to leave a comment here so that you can be deservedly celebrated for that. If you're looking for more writing advice, I have an entire write-up of my experience as a reader for the Austin Film Fest. If you're looking for script coverage or evaluations, you're welcome to visit my website. I promise I am a kind, constructive person. I'm just looking out for you. Either way, best of luck on your writing journey. And remember that the most difficult part of any of this work is simply getting started. And hopefully this will help get you there. See you next time.